Hey, everybody, it's Wednesday night. That means it's old guy Ray here with the crew here, but look, special guest at the bottom of the screen over there, Bobby Burton. This guy's name's on the channel. This guy is so important. Bobby, good to have you, man. Must be a big day. Maybe something like a pro day happening today, huh? Along with spring football. I know, Bobby, you're in Austin watching everything going on there. Sorry for the hoarse voice, but I'm screaming and cheering on my Longhorns from a distance, hoping they do well for the scouts and the coaches. So we got lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers up there, lifetime Longhorn CJ Vogel, lifetime Longhorn Bobby Burton, lifetime Longhorn Ray Peters right here hosting this sucker. We're all Longhorns. We're all Longhorn fans. We love the Texas Longhorns and football and the like. We got the pro day going on. Our man Matthew Hutchison, the producer, he actually titled this sucker Quinn Ewers DAZZLES a year early. They had Quinn throwing the ball out there today. Bobby, you're hopping on here, giving us some impressions. CJ we'll get Rod's incredible takes. Let's talk about the Ewers a year early. This is a great showcase for this kid to put his arm talent out there in front of guys like Mike McDonald and the like, or Mike McDaniel, excuse me, for the Dolphins and other coaches. So what's this mean for Ewers, and what'd you see today?
Well, I don't know about CJ, and we did not have a bunch of time to talk. We all went our separate ways right after it. But I thought for the first time in a throwing setting at Texas, I felt like Quinn could be a 1-1 pick. Rod, probably the thing that got me the most was his confidence. He was out there throwing to 5 NFL receivers, 2 of whom, by the way, are possible first rounders. JT Sanders snatches the ball as well as anybody, even though he didn't test well. And Keelan Robinson, you have to vary the pace for these guys because they're different speeds, right? And man, Quinn, I had 2 scouts that were standing right in front of me during the session, different teams. As soon as the session was over, one of the scouts says, I got 1 bad pass all workout. He probably threw 60, 70 balls. And yeah, he did. I remember he had 1 bad pass, an overthrow on an out route to, I think it was Worthy. It may have been Worthy or Mitchell. I'm not sure which.
It was Worthy.
Okay, yeah. And then the other guy looks at him and kind of raises his eyebrow, says, natural thrower. And 2 different teams. It was just impressive for a guy that age. He's 20, guys. He's not even, I don't think he's legal to drink yet. I mean, he was out there with Zach Taylor, Mike McDaniel, Steichen, the guy for the Colts. And he wasn't vocally in command of the drills, but he was running through those drills, Rod, like it was nobody's business. I mean, when you just see that kid's confident.
Yep.
Absolutely confident and very impressive. I read CJ's article just before we went on the air. I agree with CJ and some of the comments he made. So I'll let him take over on some of the other guys as well.
Yeah. To add to Quinn, out of the 60 or so passes that he threw, I saw just 2 hit the ground. One was on probably about a 35 or 40 yard out route, or kind of up the seam, up the sideline from Keelan Robinson that went through his hands. And the other one, I mean, that's just a tremendous throw. The next one to Worthy was right on the money. It kind of makes Texas fans look at it and say, where was this for the last 2 years? But to my point, the overthrow to Worthy, he had that exact same throw and exact same rec coming right after him, and put it right on the numbers, right in stride to A.D. Mitchell, the throw right after. If that doesn't show you he can make an adjustment very quickly, I'm not sure what is. But it was a tremendous day for Quinn as well. I actually thought Xavier Worthy was a big winner of today as well. And I thought as a result of him coming off of the combine, we knew what he could do with the 4.21. He did not lace up his cleats again to go out and throw and receive from those other quarterbacks at the combine. He called it a day. He accomplished what he wanted to do on his trip to Indianapolis. Today was kind of the big question mark, and he talked about it afterward. He's like, I felt like coming in, there were still some uncertainty or questions with my hands and with my route running. I feel like today I proved, most of those scouts wrong, or at least proved to them that I could be that guy. He was as strong at the point of attack with the ball that I have seen him. He was decisive in his routes. He was crisp, and he caught everything. I mean, it was a really strong day for Xavier Worthy, and for a guy that's kind of on that fringe of the first round right now. I know a lot of mock drafts have him right at 32 to the Chiefs. I think he made himself some money today.
I agree with CJ. He may have moved up, Rod. May have moved up. Everything out in front of him. You see that catch right there?
Yep.
Down below his waist?
Hands.
Yes. He was catching it with his hands every single time. This is Byron Murphy doing the bag drill. I tell you, CJ, another guy, Murphy, of course, looks good. These things are made for him. I mean, he looks like a physical freak whenever he does this, because 300-pound people aren't supposed to move like him, right? I tell you who looked good for me was Tavondre Sweat. Now, he didn't look good physically. Like, I mean, he's got some weight on him, right?
He gained some weight. Did he gain a pound?
He gained one.
Rod, he's quick. And when he punches and hits something, it lands.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a
no doubt.
You know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
And so we're seeing a lot of Jalen Ford here. He's the one in the dreads that's working out, getting ready to run. This is Jet Bush running the 40 here that y'all are watching now. Jet, I thought was interesting. He worked out mostly at linebacker, did linebacker drills. He took a couple of pass routes out of as a fullback type, which I'm not so sure. He's not a guy too, guys. So my thought process there is, look, I mean, there was throw after throw, Rod, that he looked really good, by the way. You know who he looked really good throwing the ball to? Keelan Robinson out of the backfield. I mean, he looked like he was throwing the out and up. He was throwing the weave. I mean, he's throwing all those kind of routes. And it was on the money. And Keelan is a hard guy to really throw to, because he has that second gear about 10 yards into something, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of time you got to go ahead and release on these routes. You got to release the ball early.
Yeah.
I thought that kind of feathering and what Quinn did with that was perhaps as good as anything. But the effortlessly throwing the ball, but more than anything, guys, confidence. I mean, it was, look, he can be a third-year starter. I hope this carries over to the football field. To the real, I mean, I think he made himself some money for next year already. Sure. Because I guarantee you, Mike McDaniel, Zach Taylor, the guy from the Colts, it's in their mind. McDaniel was talking to him after the game or after the workout already. So I mean, it's in their brain. He made some money today. Yeah. Now I don't know how much, but it's a sizable check. I'll just put it that way. And the other thing I would say to y'all is this: 90-something scouts there today from various teams. Rod, you've been covering Texas how long?
Yep.
20 years.
Every team represented.
Did pro day. Actually went through the thing. 90 some odd scouts there.
Yep. 96 is the number I heard.
Littered.
Yeah.
Absolutely littered. And you know what else, Rod? 40, 50 plus of the players there today too. Yeah. And I'm just, as a Texas fan, all three of you guys, they say this the right way. They look good getting off the bus as a team right now. It's starting to look, Rod, it may look better. It may look more like when you were a senior. When the new
crop.
You know what I mean? And now
back at stockpiled like 4 classes already. 4, you know what I mean? He already had that 99, 2000, 01, 02. And then you started seeing those young bucks come in. So I'm with you. Right? And by the way, Sark has those. He's got those guys early, right? Because you got so many early enrollees and some enrollees. So even a Mac, this is accelerated pace to overhaul the roster. So I'm with you. It looks different. I've heard that, but this is kind of the cherry on top. This class that's leaving, that's about to be the draftable class for Texas. I'm with you. It's been a good day for the combine. You could argue Texas won the combine, but even Texas Pro Day today, there are a lot of guys that basically confirmed or reaffirmed what a lot of scouts thought about Texas. And the truth is, like you said, Quinn Ewers won the day. As a little teaser. That hey, this thing Texas has right now, it's just the beginning. All these guys coming out that are going to be drafted in the top 2 rounds. This is just the beginning, and then Quinn Ewers, hopefully, when he takes the next step, he's going to be a guy that competes to be the first quarterback drafted overall. If you're in that conversation, then you're in conversation to be the number 1 overall draft pick. Period. With the way the NFL,
yeah, he looked and acted. He was confident, but he wasn't cocky.
Yeah.
He wasn't bossing anybody around, barking. He was just back there whipping it.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Dude, I'm just telling you that. He made himself some money today.
There were 2 other little tidbits I took away from today that I wanted to touch on real quick. The first was Xavier Worthy's comments after he ran and performed on the field. He talked to the media scrum a little bit, and he's like, Texas has turned a corner, and it's evident under Sarkeesian the direction in which this program is going from now on. He's, on top of making the college football playoff last year. Yeah, I mean, you can look around right now. There's 13 NFL draft hopefuls that are performing today. 11 went to the combine. 90-plus scouts here. He basically just kind of pointed over his shoulder and was like, I mean, look at this. And when you have guys, Rod, that show up from the team, but also past Texas legends that are walking through this door to watch the talent that is embarking on their NFL journey, like Derek Johnson, Quandre Diggs was back in Austin, Alex Okafor, Fozzie, of course, was running the show for LHN. But then you sit back and you watch the big garage door open up for Earl Campbell, and you see him come on in to watch a pro day. It really means something is moving in the bowels of DKR right now. I mean, that again, it should inspire a lot of confidence on top of the practice reports that we have coming this week from yesterday and tomorrow as well. I mean, there's a lot of excitement right now. And as Bobby said, those guys look really good in T-shirt and shorts coming off the bus to just watch their teammates.
Want to add this, Rod, and do you know when the Colts picked by chance? The Colts had not only their head coach there.
It's something like 15.
So the Colts had not only the head coach there, Rod and CJ and Ray, they also had the receivers coach there,
Reggie Wayne.
Yeah.
And that's it. Zach Taylor being there. That wasn't for Quinn. Just to be clear, that was for the receiver group, right? It was impressive. I mean, just I thought Xavier helped himself. AD had a couple drops. JT Sanders was probably the conundrum of the day.
Yeah,
right.
Is the best way to put it. Did not test well. Just didn't. Not a twitchy athlete. We've talked about that, right? Not slow, but not twitchy. But man, when he gets into pass skeleton drills, Rod and guys, he's the dude.
Yeah.
I mean, but think about him. He may be 4'7", but he's running he doesn't have to slow down to gather the ball.
Yeah.
Some tight ends have to slow down to gather the ball. You can't lead them. You know what I mean by that? Now, I'm not talking about the Travis Kelce's of the world that are all world, but a lot of tight ends in the NFL, they still have to gather, and can't really. JT doesn't have to do that very often, and he showed that today. So when he runs a 4.7, I think he plays 4.7. That makes sense? He's not running a 4.5 and playing a 4.7. And he's not running a 4.7 and playing a 4.9.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. Yeah. He and T'Vondre Sweat, they have similar situations to me in terms of how the NFL views them. There are going to be some NFL teams that fall in love with those two guys just because they believe they fit their system so well. Whether that's T'Vondre Sweat because he's obviously a massive human being at 365, 366. But there are some systems in the NFL where he's perfect for. They believe he might be the perfect player for him. And I think those are the kind of guys that teams, when they do drop out of the first round, they trade up for him in the second round. And I think JT Sanders is a candidate like that. I think there's some teams. There's a reason. We look at the head coaches that came out. They were offensive coaches that came out. All right, so they're looking at the wide receivers. You talked about the wide receiver coaching coaches that came out. What do you say, CJ? There were 11 of them, 11 NFL wide receiver coaches.
That I counted. I think yeah, I missed the Bengals coach too, so the count's even higher.
Yeah, the count's even higher. That's because Texas, the wide receivers, because you got A.D. Mitchell, you got Xavier Worthy. Hell, I'll even throw Jay Witt in there. But I also think the offensive coaches are looking at guys like J.T. Sanders and what he could offer, because he, like I said, he might be ideal for certain systems in the NFL, even though in terms of being a high-level, highly drafted tight end, he's not necessarily checking all the boxes when you look at the measurables and the testing. He's not doing that right now. And neither is T'Vondre Sweat when you look at, hey, man, you thought he would be losing some weight, but the way that he moves with that weight makes him an outlier. And JT Sanders, I think, is kind of an outlier too when you look at what Bobby talked about, him being able to separate and him being able to beat man-to-man, one-on-one coverage, and also being able to adjust to the football. His man, you talk about his catch radius, his ability to convert contested catches as well. Those types of things, those little things, I think some coaches, offensive coaches, are looking at as this guy may be, one of the kind of the bright spots to us in the second round, potentially in the NFL draft.
I think because go ahead, Bobby. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I want to add. I was just thinking through everything that went on today. And CJ, I want to get your thought about this. It felt almost like inside the bubble was a little bit of a celebration of Texas football. It just, there are 96 NFL scouts. How is that not celebrating what they did this past year?
Yep.
If those 12 guys or however many have participated today, and their ultimate goal is to play in the NFL, how is that not a celebration? And if you have 40, 50 guys of the existing team that come in there and want to be part of it and see what it's like.
Yeah.
Heck, Jerry Hamilton was there with us as well today. And he gets a picture of Kenny Baker, the new defensive line coach, giving Sadir Mitchell some scouting tips, like technique tips in the middle of the combine type atmosphere. It was, here it is. There's Kenny Baker, and he's talking to Sadir Mitchell. And you know what I mean? It was just, it felt like that. The coaches, not only Kenny Baker, but Johnny Nansen, Tashard Choice was out there. Chris Jackson ran most of the drill for the pass skeleton. Jeff Banks, they're all, Kwiatkowski was out there. It felt like, to me, a celebration of a lot of hard work, but also it portended well for the future.
Bobby, it's supposed to represent the connection, full circle of the process and the journey. The young guys that are there observing, hey man, this is where I want to be. This is actually one of my next steps in my journey to ultimately what every player wants in college football, to play in the NFL. Right. So it represents the connection, right? You have the young guys that are there. You got the old heads who play in the NFL, who are still playing, that are also there. They're there to celebrate, just like you talked about, Bobby. And then you have the guys who are actually on the cusp of being drafted. They are there performing. They're there working out, right? They're about to embark on their dream. So it is symbolic. And back in the day, by the way, it still represented that when Mac Brown had Texas football at its height. That's what it was, right? You had tons of NFL guys that used to come out. Every team represented at the NFL Pro Day for Texas. You have some of the young guys who are coming out just to watch everybody perform and watch the showcase. And you have the guys out there, in my day, it was me, but the other guys, obviously through generations, who've been able to showcase their talent at Pro Day in some form or fashion. So you're right. It does represent a celebration. And we've seen this, by the way, for Texas when Texas football has taken these steps recently. I remarked that, the Sugar Bowl, even though I wasn't there, God, I wanted to be there, but I was just had a newborn baby, so it wasn't going to happen. Can't take a newborn baby to New Orleans. I tried to convince wifey, guys. It was not happening. She was not dope. She's like, there are a lot of cities I would take this newborn baby to. New Orleans is not one of them. So it wasn't going to happen, but that's okay. I was hoping they got to H-Town, and I definitely convinced her H-Town is a baby-friendly city. But anyway, I digress. My point is, but everybody that was there, and Bobby, you were there, so you know this. It felt like a Longhorn revival. it was a revival in a sense. It was a celebration. Longhorn Nation came out because it did represent, all right, this is Texas now finally getting back to the standard of Texas football. And the standard is all 32 teams represented at Pro Day. They should all be there with multiple head coaches there. That's the standard. The standard is Texas should be, having 11 guys invited to the NFL Combine, and they should win the NFL Combine like they did with Xavier Worthy setting the record for the 40-yard dash, right? They should be competing with the final 4 teams in all of college football, right? So there have been these little benchmarks of achievement by Texas, and give credit to Sark and the team. They've done an amazing job. And Texas Nation, the Longhorn Nation, our own Texas football, La Familia, the community, have come out to celebrate those. And it does feel like that. And the players, all right, old heads like me, lifetime Longhorns, they're coming back now to celebrate it. They're recognizing, like, all right, now this is where the standard is supposed to be. So this is how this is where, when Texas is good, we haven't been here in a while. I have to explain my wife that she always used to ask me, why the hell is Texas football so popular and why do people care about it so much? Why are they so passionate? I met her I met her like 12, 13 years ago. So she hadn't experienced this either. She was like, what is the big deal? I don't understand the big deal. I'm like, right now, I'll admit, baby, it ain't where it's supposed to be. So you don't get the, all of the mojo. You don't necessarily get the vibe of it. But recently she has, because this past season she was like, oh, I kind of get it. Man. When Texas is good, there ain't nothing like it. There ain't nothing like it in college football when Texas football is actually a championship contender year after year, and they are playing to a standard. And that's where we are again. And it's about to be a force, especially now with NIL and the transfer portal. It's about to do some damage in college football. There ain't no question.
Yeah. And days like today in the Combine, it's also fulfilling a recruiting promise Sarkeesian and Banks and the guys are making to the players, that we develop. We have contacts in the league. We're going to get scouts out. They're going to look at you. We're going to teach you the right way to do things. You're going to become a proficient at the craft. You're going to perform, and you're going to get your chance. You're going to get seen by the NFL scouts, and stuff like today really went a long way in proving those guys right. So love seeing that today. Got some questions about Jordan Whittington. Who can fill me in on what's going on with Jordan?
Yeah, still banged up from the hamstring injury. He did not take part in any of the agility drills. He did not run a 40. He did take part in some of the on-field receiving drills, but I wouldn't say that they were anything close to 100%. In fact, by the time he caught the ball on each of his reps, that was basically it. He shut it down after about 3 yards of a turn up the field. He did not burst down the field like you see in Combine and in these pro day situations, finishing all the way through the goal line like most of these coaches ask of you to do. There will be another opportunity for Jordan Whittington to get out, get that tape, get those measurables, get those Combine numbers back in front of NFL scouts. Texas will be holding, quote unquote, a second pro day, April 14th on campus at the Bubble. That is when Jordan Whittington is 100% hopeful that he will be back on the field to go through the 40, the pro agility to the 3-cone, and of course, a full slate of receiving drills. That is the plan for Jordan Whittington, which is interesting because the Big 12, for the first time ever, will be having their own pro day, March 28th and 30th up in Frisco, Texas. They released the roster today. There is not a single Texas Longhorn on that group. Texas will be having their own second pro day later on for anybody who wants to either impress one last time or someone like Jordan Whittington who is looking to get some first numbers in front of NFL scouts.
I got to say this. It's been a while since I've been and seen CJ's news get up in his house there. And I like that photo there of Earl Campbell as an Oiler. Look at that.
Love you blue, baby.
Hey, to my man CJ, that's what it says.
Yeah.
It's a classic. I love it.
Love you blue, baby.
Hey, slowly but surely, I'll get all this going.
H-Town was lit during Love You Blue because of that guy right there. Him and Bill Phillips. They put on a show down in H-Town.
The Monday night game against Miami was just incredible back in 80. I think it was. It was ridiculous. Hey, Bobby, I don't know how much longer we got you. Let's pick your brain a little bit about the 2025 schedule. It's simply reversing what we did this year or what we're going to have coming up this year. but it also, you pointed out in an email earlier that it means they're not going to a 9-team
Yes.
SEC yet, right?
So, good
Matthew,
point.
if you have that graphic, if you don't mind putting that up, and we'll have Bobby discuss a little bit about what we can look forward to in the 2025 SEC season.
I don't know, Matt. I don't know if Matt has the schedule, the 2025 schedule or not, but it is just a reversal. Texas plays Vanderbilt at home next year, but goes to Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, and Mississippi State. It's just to your point, Ray. It is. I got a chance. I think I do have some color on this a little bit that I can add. I went and showed that email came out right in the middle of the combine, and I had literally just said goodbye to Chris Del Conte. He had walked in and was kind of pressing the flesh around the outskirts, of everything. And I literally got that email from Texas Athletics in the middle of it. And so I went up to Chris and I said, Chris, what's this? I just on the spot. And he's like, oh, it's just going to be an 8-game schedule in 2025. He goes, I think with the college football playoff kind of in flux right now and where that's at, an 8-game SEC schedule makes a lot of sense. And then he said goodbye, and he was off to the next Texas events. I think he was going to see beach volleyball this evening. So right. he's got a full docket, but I appreciate him giving a little color there for fans. But I do think the 8-game schedule is important, guys, because man, you go 9 games in the SEC. I was thinking about that. You get the wrong 9, that's a tough schedule. At some level, I think they want to play. I don't know if it's Colorado State or whatever, but they want to play North Texas.
Hey, Bobby, to an extent, it feels like they already play 9 games, right? With Michigan and Ohio State loaded up. Like these non-conference early games that they've had scheduled. I mean, there's your 9th game, no? Yeah,
no, I agree. And that's a great point. So why do you want 10?
Absolutely.
That's where I'm at. I mean, you don't need to be playing 11 teams with NIL, 10 teams with NIL. Play 8 or 9 with NIL, and then get 3 games that you get healthy and get some guys some time that are young guys that aren't in as high a pressure situations that they can walk into the game a little bit more easily.
Yeah, you could argue this would be symbiotic for both the separation of the have and have-nots, for the haves and the have-nots. Because then the haves, they could schedule some of those group of 5 schools in some of those matchups. Those guys are these the schools obviously in the lower end of college football in terms of the pecking order. They would get bigger paydays if that's the case, but also if it's not about the payday, if they're not that necessarily that desperate, it would be about getting your team, your roster, a chance to play up against and compare your roster against some of the best teams in the country, which all teams want to do, especially when they have to worry about the non-conference. When they still have a chance to win their conference schedule, they'd love to early on get a chance to play one of those big time teams. So I think honestly the 8-game schedule would be goodwill for the SEC toward the rest of college football if they keep it, but I don't know if they'll keep it that way.
Yeah, I just thought as you were saying that, Rod, to myself, that's found money for North Texas.
Oh man,
they need those extra games.
They need
right. I mean, they get paid to travel. That helps fund their athletic department. Take those extra games away from them, and all of a sudden they're playing 9 conference games. They don't want 9 conference games.
Nope.
They want 8, and they want to travel and get paid for 3 of them.
Yeah,
exactly. Right.
Those travel games, and so we'll see how it all works out. But I thought it was interesting that he mentioned the college football playoff as a complexifying part of the whole idea. Well, yeah, that kind of makes sense because look, in 2025, we don't, we're still trying to negotiate out all of this, how many SEC teams are going to be in the college football playoff. And so until we know for sure that, we're just going to keep playing an 8-game schedule.
Yep.
So we're not going to knock each other off unnecessarily.
Yeah. Yep.
So until we get a guaranteed amount in 2025. And so if y'all want us to do that, we'll just keep doing this way.
Yep. Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And think about it, right? It's like, why try to be tough?
Yep. And think about how many games they're going to end up playing when they have the 14-team playoff, and they eventually expand the 16 team playoff. They'll be playing a lot of games. and
Yeah.
you'll be playing against elite teams because you're basically going to be playing against, SEC, between the SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC, and the Big 12. They'll be mostly the teams represented in the playoffs. So in addition to the SEC schedule and then the playoff schedule you're going to play, why would you add another like really, really tough competitive game? I mean, that's a hell of a slate to deal with. Like you said, if you had the wrong 8 or the wrong 9 in that schedule, in addition to the playoff games they're going to play. We didn't thinking about that, but they're about to be playing, another 2-3 weeks of the schedule added with the playoffs.
Yeah, and the RW made actually a great comment here. You know who's not thrilled with this mirroring of the schedule is Florida, who already has a tough 2024 schedule and just has to go back to repeat that exact same schedule in 2025. On the bright side for them, if there is one, you drop UCF in 2024 for USF. So good luck to Billy Napier or whoever else is in charge.
Yeah, who might be their coach?
Well, they better keep their whole thing to their path to success. I'm just going to say this, and I talked with Jerry Hamilton about this. Is the quarterback from Willis, Texas, Derek Lagway, taking over? Because unless their offensive line is chaos, their offense in general is chaos, and unless they have a quarterback that can break down and do something to defenses off schedule, like they have no offense, in my opinion. Lagway would give them that opportunity because he can throw the deep ball extremely well. He's got a heavy arm, in my opinion, and he can run, athletic. Yeah. So he helps you do. You know what I mean? He will be the guy that could help save Billy Napier's job. If he's not, if they don't give him the keys soon enough, Billy Napier ain't going to be there at the end of this year, in my opinion. Because Graham Mertz ain't it. I mean, Graham Mertz may play in the NFL. He ain't going to be good enough in the SEC to beat enough teams.
Man,
you know what I mean by that? He ain't going to overcome that, and because he doesn't have the talent around him from an offensive skill position. Yeah, they're actually talented, but their offensive execution. I mean, Art Briles at Stephenville was better. I mean, from that, I mean, I'm not saying that their players were. I mean, just they executed at a much higher level with guys that, it's just that Florida's offensive execution level was really bad last year.
Yeah.
Not a bad defensive team, but a bad offensive team.
Yeah. Lagway may be called on to do some hero ball. And
yes.
Right?
And may get them through it. And may get them through it a couple times.
God knows Ellinger did that for us for a couple of years, right?
Yep. Fair.
So,
fair, right?
Juan in a million, Bobby. Bobby, he's not going to let you go. Juan, I know he means Sark here, and I didn't even know the answer to this one. Yes, he was. So, but Bobby, tell us about what you witnessed, and CJ as well, with Coach Sarkeesian and his interactions with the other coaches and scouts today.
Boy, as he's popular. I mean, of course, it's his pro day kind of, right, that he's kind of orchestrating. But the scouts, I mean, he was corralled by a couple scouts at different times, getting information, et cetera. There's a bunch of stuff like that happened. Jerry Hamilton just, by the way, so Sark was out there. He just met with he was kind of pressing the flesh too. He hugged a bunch of moms, by the way. Ryan Watts' mom was out there.
Mm-hmm.
Byron Murphy. You know what I mean? He was doing that kind of thing. So he was supporting the parents and talking to the scouts. So it was kind of the professional side of business, and then going out there and talking to the parent. You know what I mean? Rod's shaking his head because he's been there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hey, I want to say this real quick. We do have a little bit of breaking news. Jerry Hamilton we're hanging out together and staying at the same place this week. He handed me the news that the big offensive lineman Lamont Rogers has scheduled an official visit to Texas. I believe it's the 14th and 16th. Is that correct? 14th and 16th. So that's a little recruiting note Jerry just gave me. So I keep that in mind too. We got a lot of stuff going on right now in Longhorn land.
Hey, Bobby, we've had a day to ruminate, marinate on what you witnessed yesterday morning at the first spring practice. A day later, what are your initial thoughts about, or initial plus a day, of what you saw there? Again, they just look like a real challenger for a title.
Title is hard to say because that's elusive.
Yeah,
I mean, I think title is very, very elusive, right? If anybody knows that, it's Texas, who had all these great teams but didn't get many titles. You know, do they look the part like those teams? Yes. Yes. The one thing I come back to this, and I still like their senior class is not that talented overall, the Texas senior class. But man, the junior class is, the sophomore class is, and the freshman class. You know what I mean? So and some of that is the attrition. Jonathan Brooks is going early. JT Sanders is going early. You know what I mean? Xavier Worthy's going early. So a lot of the seniors, they're gone. Like Byron Murphy's a year early, right? And so it's not unlike other teams that they have the same issues, right? But man, with the transfer portal, they just did such a nice job. I mean, you get guys like Amari Niblack and Matthew Golden and Isaiah Bond and Andrew Makuba, who was out there, by the way, today. CJ has known him for a long time, got a chance to talk to him a little bit. That it's just different. The portal makes college football different to me. There's no, like right now, I can tell you right now, they would be, if the coaching staff would be worried, oh, we're worried about our defensive line, et cetera. Okay. They still have another chance to fill that void a little bit.
If I can add to that, Bobby, what we saw yesterday and what we'll see tomorrow is a lot more future pro days, which will look a lot like what we saw today.
That's good news.
Next year's going to be a circus with Quinn now. If this year was a circus, next year will be a circus. Because the only thing I would add, though, is they'll have Quinn, which like Caleb Williams' pro day was televised on ESPN, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I meant by that circus. But Texas actually has 3 potential first rounders this year, right? And Murphy and the 2 receivers. What do they have besides Quinn next year that might bring out a Reggie Wayne? Not necessarily the head coach, Mike McDaniel or Zach Taylor, but the Reggie Waynes.
Yeah.
I guess Isaiah Bond, maybe Amari Niblack. Who are maybe Kelvin Banks?
Banks. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And so it could be Quinn, obviously. I mean, it could be a heavy year. Terrence Brooks maybe go a year early. Jade Barron and Makuba likely gone, next year. So I agree. I mean, to CJ's point, year after year after year, and that's a good thing. Yeah. But is it a title team? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. Are they going to score on 4th and 5? Or are they going to get it? Is the other team going to get a stop? That could have gone either way.
Yep. How's the red zone offense? Yeah.
Rod's got
interesting. But like you said, it's a good problem to have. And so when Rod was talking earlier about, man, that's going to be a lot of games we have to play when we get in the playoffs. And I'm going, hallelujah. Can you imagine us having this conversation over the last decade other than this past season? No.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
Yeah. So it's just incredible. Hey, Rod, we got a question for you. Bobby, I know you've got to run if you need to bow out.
Yep, I will. Thank y'all, and we'll be back tomorrow morning with Coffee Football. We also have a couple other things. On Tuesday, we had a follow-up morning show because we're going to have an immediate reaction from practice again tomorrow. So we'll do a double dip or a double dose. And then don't forget, tomorrow afternoon, Rod, CJ, and Coach Shipley are back for the winning drive again. And when I tell you guys that y'all got a lot of good reviews, Rod and CJ, it really did. I got some comments actually today on it. So
yeah, we appreciate that.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you guys. Y'all be good, man. Y'all have a good night.
Thanks, Bobby.
All right,
thank you. Always welcome.
All right,
appreciate it.
El Capitan.
That's the man right there. He's the original. He's the OG.
El Capitan, man, no doubt.
Right? He's done some good work. Hey, Rod, AJJ Sports at 741 had a question for you talking about Ryan Watts, and that's a pretty good question.
Yeah.
What's the guy going to play in the next level? So he says, everything you've seen, Combine, Pro Day, you believe Ryan Watts can stick at corner? You think he'll go to safety right away? He ran pretty well, jumped really well. This guy's got some good talents. What do you think about that Ryan Watts and his future in the league?
Yeah, I thought he tested really well at the combine. I haven't seen the numbers from the pro day, but I thought at the combine he tested really well. And he's essentially said that the NFL teams that he's talked to, they're pretty much split about the teams that desire him as a corner and the teams that are looking at him as a safety. I think he'll be better at safety. I do. I'm going on the record. I think he'd be better at safety in the NFL. I think projection-wise, his skill set, considering his short area quickness, is a lot better than I thought. When you go look at NFL Combine and his 3-cone drill, when you go look at his broad jump, his vertical, he's really explosive. So he could actually translate to the right system in the NFL as a corner in terms of if they're asking him to do the right things. But I think as a safety, he can play in almost any system in the NFL because of his skill set and his size and his range as a player. So it'll be interesting to see what he's going to get drafted. Actually, the way it's looking now, that a lot of teams are looking at him as a late round pick because he's a developmental project. The beauty of that is they have expanded the practice squads. You can be on the practice squads longer. So teams are more willing to look at a guy like Ryan Watts as a developmental project. And for whatever reason in the NFL right now, the safety position for at least this season, I was talking to Quandre Diggs about this, has been devalued. It's been considered a non-essential positions. We saw the all-pro and all the really good players, including Quandre Diggs, who ended up being released this year at the safety position. So they're trying to reset the market, which is bad news for safeties, but good news for Ryan Watts if he's going to play safety, because NFL teams, they want cheap labor. And cheap labor comes from young players like guys like Ryan Watts, who you can develop into being a safety. And just because they have all the raw materials, they got all the measurables to play a safety position. All you got to do as an NFL coach is be able to, make sure, teach them essentially the translation of that skill set to a new position. I think he would be great actually at safety. I heard Michael Griffin talking about it on LHN a long time ago, talking about, no, that guy's an NFL safety. And if anybody knows about NFL safety, it'd be Michael Griffin. So I'll trust him on that. And I think he's best at safety, but he's saying they're looking at him at either. But I think the system, wherever he lands, is going to be key.
Yeah, he actually was one of the winners of today as well. He wanted to come in to improve his broad jump to show off that explosivity. He actually, it's kind of funny, he said he had to redo his vertical jump a few times at the combine, in which he cleared 40 inches. I think he actually finished with 40.5 as his official mark in the vertical jump. But as a result, Rod, jumping too much, you wear out your legs a little bit.
Yep.
So he improved his broad jump from 10.5 to 11.1, which drew a pretty sizable, uproar from the Texas guys who were in attendance, cheering on Ryan Watts. But really impressive stuff. I actually wanted to bring up the clip. Or he spent time with the Texas media in the pro day today. He talked very highly about his time at Texas and what he thought it meant to play for the Longhorns at the time. So, Matt, if you have that clip ready, I mean, I really enjoyed what he had to say about the Longhorns in his time here.
They take me in, especially the players, man. Like, they just welcome me with open arms, being a Texas kid and being able to play for Texas, man. I feel like I have so much gratitude to the university in Austin, Texas. Like, it'll forever be my home. I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm not explaining. Like, as a kid, like, this is something that you love. So just being able to do this and having that Texas on my shirt too, man, I'm extremely grateful, for real.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're muted.
For a kid that has that to say about the University of Texas after transferring in from Ohio State, albeit a DFW kid, I mean that says a lot. And that sentiment was echoed a little bit more with Jordan Whittington, who basically put out another message. If you're a high school kid in Texas that wants to play college football, Texas is the place that you need to play at. He's been saying it on social media. He said it again today. And for that to be the message that we've seen under this staff, for these guys departing to the NFL, quite the turn from what we saw under the past couple of regimes who are, might now be getting back to good terms with the program.
Yeah, it's a throwback because the state pride thing. I thought for a while I don't know what happened, but the state pride kind of dissipated among high school prospects heading to college. When I was coming out, it was big, it was huge. Like I played in a Texas versus California All-Star game. It was like the state of Texas versus the state of California, and it was an All-Star game coming out of high school, and we lost, damn it, on a Hail Mary, not on me. But it was a Hail Mary they threw. All right. It was Kyle Bowler, actually. I believe it was Kyle Bowler that threw the Hail Mary, actually, in the All-Star game. And that's the reason we lost. But it was the state pride, actually, was a recruiting tool. It was a pitch. And actually, it got me to stay in the States. R.C. Slocum said, hey, man, you realize your mom and dad won't be able to go to the games unless you stay in the States. And that's when it didn't matter. Florida State, Colorado, Penn State. And Penn State, yes, Jerry Sandusky was there, but I digress. But I put all those guys on the back burner because I was like, no, I got to stay in the state of Texas. It matters to me. And I remember Mac Brown saying, where do you want to live? Do you want to live in Texas? I was like, yeah, I want to live in Texas. He's like, then you need to stay in Texas. Like, you want to live in Texas, start building your brand in Texas. This is before NIL. And Mac Brown's like, build your brand here in Texas. People will know you in Texas. That will matter. And if you want to live here in Texas, he's talking about the 40-year decision, not a 4-year decision. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these guys, I don't know if they're thinking about that, but I'm glad now the state pride is coming back. Like, if you're a great player in Texas, don't you want to play ball in Texas? Yeah, it could be at A&M. That would suck for Texas fans. But staying in the state, that was something that R.C. Slocum and Mac Brown were big about. After those two guys kind of lost, at least Mac Brown kind of lost a stranglehold on the state after 2009, that 2010 season. That was when the state pride thing wasn't necessarily a sexy pitch anymore. And it wasn't a recruiting tool anymore. And I don't really know what happened, but that's when some of your talents started leaving the state, and your quarterbacks mostly, right? A lot of your QBs leaving the state. So I think Texas now has a healthy mix between the national recruiting, which you must do, and having that state pride, being able to instill that state pride in guys that if you're the best in Texas, come to the University of Texas to play football.
Hey, Rod, you mentioned Mac, and then there's some comments about the Sarkeesian being a great CEO and doing some good things.
Some great job.
Nobody was better than Mac Brown, and he probably still excellent at it over in North Carolina of kissing babies and slapping people on the backside, remembering their name and saying, "Hey, I'll see you out on the 9th hole," and all that stuff that Mac Brown. Are you surprised at how good Sarkeesian is at that type thing too? Because he's really connected well with people. It seems like a great fit.
I am not surprised because for Sark, he's such a genuine, authentic human, and
Right.
I'll give him credit for that. I've recognized that, and just the media availabilities. I'll admit, I used to pass on the media availabilities. Like, I didn't watch everyone and listen to everyone, and even when Mac was doing it, because I love Mac, but Mac's a politician. Mac could still get elected governor in this damn state if he wanted to, mayor of Austin if he wanted to. I mean, he is just a great. I don't even know what side of the aisle Mac would be on, and I think he actually one of those guys that could go independent. Mac's legit, man. Mac's legit. Mac could run for office. I think he could win. But I digress. When Mac was here, Mac would, man, he would filibuster a media availability, and Mac wasn't trying to be genuine or authentic. He was trying to kind of bogart the media availability so the media wouldn't get any chances to ask questions, and then he would kind of discombobulate them with these long answers and being very loquacious in his responses. And he wasn't really giving you anything, but that was on purpose. That was intentional. It wasn't because Mac didn't know what he was doing. No, Mac was very deliberate about that. And so I figured nothing but coach speak. And same thing with Charlie, same thing with Tom Herman for the most part. And Tom Herman almost belittled people because he thought he was the smartest guy in the room, the Mensa meathead kind of mentality. But with Sark, I mean, I watch all of his media availabilities. He's so genuine and authentic. He gives you what he believes. And he gives you kind of an authentic response to the question. It's like, I believe.
He's earnest.
Yes. I mean, it really is. Like, and he thinks about it. It's very thoughtful. Like, he thinks about it first. Like, at times he's like, let me think about it. And he gives you a real response, not just coach speak. I love that about him. And it gives not the media a lot of content, but just for people that trying to get to know him as a coach and as a person. We appreciate those windows to his soul, windows to his mindset, the windows to him as a person, not just a coach. and it's refreshing. You don't get it a lot. And I think that's why people like Sark, because he just seems to be, but I believe he is the genuine article. And what you see is what you get. That's not always the case. And like I said, that we've had great guys like that. Mac Brown was amazing in his communication skills and his ability to relate to people and be the CEO who everybody can relate to. I mean, Mac Brown ain't from Texas, but you think he was when he was here. It was like, Mac Brown's like, Mac, you ain't from Texas. He's like, hey, you think I was from Texas. He's the ability to adapt. He's a chameleon. You know what I mean? In any environment, Mac was amazing in that respect. So he had his assets, his strengths, right, as a leader and head coach of Texas football. But I think one of the strengths of Sark is his ability to just be so forthcoming and so earnest, as you put it there, Ray. It's a great word. And I think Longhorn fans, it's refreshing for Longhorn fans. They're like, I'm not really used to this, but I appreciate it. We almost don't believe him sometimes that he's being so open and when they asked him about the weight of the players, like the weight of Savion Red, the weight of Blackshear, the weight of Sadir Mitchell, he was like, yeah, we think they should lose a little weight. Like, that's not the response I thought actually that we're gonna get from him there, but okay. And I appreciate that from Sark, and I think a lot of people do.
Hey, CJ, I got the Tyrese Barmer here. He's got kind of a technical question for you here. He wants you to start talking about the personnel groupings. So should he mix in more 10 personnel? Defense is being set up to defend 12. Then you slip in a Jonte or a Isaiah or DeAndre or Matthew and mid-drive and cause mismatches or coverage mistakes. What do you think about the Tyrese and wanting to throw a curveball at some folks?
Yeah, I think younger me would have sat back and said, put your 5 best wide receivers on the field and let them cook. I think, no pun intended, because Jonte would have been part of that. But, a kid that grew up watching the air raid Big 12, playing NCAA and Madden as well, I was always out there playing 4 verticals and just basically hucking it as far as I could. And that was kind of my mindset. And then I flipped over to the defensive side of the ball a little bit, and I was like, all right, there are mismatches that you can kind of sit back and pick apart on as a result of having a good tight end and good running backs, and the personnel groupings that you bring in on offense, they have to match on defense. It sounds great in theory to go 10 personnel and have 4 really speedy wide receivers on your offensive side of the ball. But guess what the defense is going to do? They're going to go with a very light box. They're going to probably play a 4-1-6 in a way. That way they can match what personnel you have with 2 safeties back deep and almost 2 nickel backs on either side with 1 middle linebacker. That way that they're matching exactly what you have on the field at that point. So I do think that a tight end should be on the field at all times. I do think if you have the personnel to do so, a 12 personnel offense with 2 tight ends actually provides more of an opportunity to exploit defenses than going 4 wide or 5 wide with all wide receivers. So I think Texas has the horses to do all sorts of interesting looks and packages and personnel groupings this year. But I would definitely keep a guy like Gunnar Helm and especially a guy like Amari Niblack on the field, because if you can pair them up and find that mismatch on a given weekend with a slower linebacker or a safety that doesn't necessarily turn well in coverage, I mean, that right there beats just about any other mismatch you might be able to have. Because, again, I mean, these guys are 6'4", 6'5", and then more times than not can jump through the roof. So I love keeping a tight end on the field. Yeah,
Rod, you may be ready to weigh in, but let's talk about Gunnar Helm a little bit. He's a big kid, right? He's about 6'5". What's he weighing? 240, 250, something along those areas. What's his ceiling? What can Gunnar Helm be? What do you think?
Honestly, I think a lot of that will be determined by Sark, right? Sark says the tight end position is the second most important position in his offense behind quarterback. So he's serious about it. So I'm with you, CJ. I thought at one point, and I still think it's possible that Sark could break out a 10 personnel package. He has one in his arsenal. He has one because he used it at Alabama. He called it the red package. And when they had, Judy and Devontae Smith and Waddle and Ruggs and Mechie, they had so many great wide receivers, which they have a deep group here at Texas. He used the red package, which is 10 personnel, 1 back, 0 tight ends. So he could, but I don't know if he will, because he has actually shown the propensity to play a lot of 12 personnel. Early on, when he first got to Texas, it was close to 40% of the time they were playing 12 personnel. It's dropped down a little bit to around 30% of the time. But the reason is because they're playing more of their Big 11, Big 12 with Malik Agbo out there. They're playing more pony package, 2 tailback sets. So he's diversifying his personnel grouping, which makes me think you could see the 10 personnel here sprinkled in this season, because he is expanding his personnel grouping. And the reason he's doing it is because Texas is really deep at certain positions, right? You're really deep at running back. You're at Bijan and Rojo. So why not run 2 tailback sets, right? That's crazy not to. You're really deep on the offensive line because of the pancake factory and Kyle Flood stockpiling talent there. So why not put 6 O linemen on the field? You're just, and you're really maximizing your strength on the team. Well, now it's wide receiver. You're really deep. And as I said, the trend is that he will throw it out there. But I agree with CJ, and at least these are the words from Sark. The tight end position is really important. Gunnar Helm, to me, we don't know what he's capable of because we haven't seen it. Mm-hmm. We don't know really what his ceiling. And if Sark believes that he is a elite NFL caliber tight end, then he will funnel usage to him. But if he doesn't, then he's not going to funnel usage to him. Nye Black will get more of that usage. Because I don't think he's gonna waste snaps and waste targets on a player he doesn't think is a difference maker. If Helm is not considered by Sark to be a difference maker, some guys move the chains, some guys change the game. JT Sanders was a game changer. If he believes this guy that's gonna move the chains, he'll have the same role as he did this past year. And Sark will supplement the offense in other ways, right? With other personnel groupings, through the running backs, through the wide receiver rotation, whatever it may be. But if he believes, oh no, Gunnar Helm's a weapon who can change the game for me, then you'll see him target him. All right, in certain ways, you'll see him scheme things open for Gunnar Helm. If you don't see that, then Sark is already telling you with his actions as a play caller and as an offensive, a creative mind, an offensive guru, that he's not the guy. Nye Black starts getting more of that target share. So we'll learn early on. We'll know based on how Sark's calling games if he considers Gunnar Helm to be a game-changing weapon. Does that mean Gunnar Helm won't play in the NFL? I'm not saying that, but whether Sark thinks he's a weapon that is worthy of being targeted and being game planned, or at least put in the game plan, we don't necessarily know that, because he wasn't that and he hasn't been that. But that's understandable because JT Sanders was that for you at the tight end.
JT there.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah, good points. Good points. So we have probably less than 5 minutes in the show. We're gonna let everybody get to the Longhorn Network and watch some pro day footage, because I think they've got some half-hour shows that they've created that they're going to be running in a cycle here. I have a question from David Keith Williams, who's a frequent contributor here, talking about 40-yard dash times. And Roddy, he asked you, I know they've already split it up into 10-yard segments, so they've already decided that it's maybe not the end-all, be-all of everything, but how important is 40-yard dash times, things like that? Oh man, we can do like an hour on this subject.
You got 2 minutes. If you look back over time, right? If you look back over, we're talking about decades of sample size and analytics. The 40-yard dash does not correlate to NFL success. There are other drills. There are other tests that actually have a better correlation to NFL success. The 3-cone drill, actually. I was talking to Jeremy Hills about this. The 3-cone drill actually has a better correlation to NFL success when you look back over time. Short area quickness, change of direction. But the 40-yard dash is the main event of the combine. So the NFL promotes essentially the fastest man competition of the 40-yard dash. And if you look at the top 25 fastest NFL receivers in the history of the NFL combine, only one of them has 1,000 yards in the NFL. Just one out of the top 25 fastest. And I believe it's Santana Moss out of the top 25 fastest. So hopefully, my man Xavier Worthy is the outlier there, but it actually isn't. And now think about this, David Keith Williams. Now we actually have GPS monitors. We have laser accurate digital times for these guys during football games. We knew that Xavier Worthy was the fastest player in college football from the GPS data from this past season. That's what it said. All right, he's the fastest player in college football, and yet he had to go out there and prove it. I'm glad he did. I think he raised his draft stock when he went out there and did it. But there is rarely a time when you're going to run 40 yards straight ahead. All right.
Mhm.
And now we actually can quantify and calculate football speed, pad zone, with the ball in hand, dodging defenders. And yet we still want to sit out there with a stopwatch in our hand, all right, and time some dude running 40 yards straight ahead when we can actually clock how fast they run in a football game, pads on, ball in hand versus elite defenders. How absurd is that?
Right?
But hey, it's all about the show, and the NFL is a TV show, and the 40-yard dash is good for ratings, baby. It's really good for ratings.
Yep. Rich Eisen is out there in the suit running.
There you go.
You know who had crap 40-yard times? Emmitt Smith and Jerry Rice.
Exactly.
That's all you need to know. This guy asked, Deshaun Jackson didn't get 1,000 yards receiving. Probably did. I presume that the Cal Bear receiver with a mercurial attitude may have,
he did. He did. He's among the lightest receivers. But
So
I don't know if
you're-
he's been I don't know if he's been the top 25 fastest at the combine. I think he ran like a 4.3, guys, like in the mid 4.3s. Guys, have y'all looked at the combine lately? Human beings are getting way faster. Have y'all looked at the combine this year, guys, and how fast those guys were? It was the fastest wide receiver combine in history. The average wide receiver ran 4.4 flat. Guys, I love Deshaun Jackson. He ain't among the top 25 fastest receivers in combine history.
That's crazy.
That's how fast these human beings are getting. I honestly, I want to say AD Mitchell was fast. Was it just as fast as Deshaun Jackson?
maybe 4.34. I guess it was for
Exactly like that does. I know y'all. He's fast, but that's why we like football speed. Because Deshaun Jackson, does he run a 4.3 on the field with pads on? Hell yes, he does. We all saw it with our own eyes. And that's the question. Some of these guys, they don't, that speed doesn't translate. And for Xavier Word, this is why CJ said he made some money today, because the scouts are getting their eyes on him and saying, man, the film, he's fast on the field with the pads on. He's fast right here in person, and he's fast when we actually track him on digital time. Damn, maybe he's just fast.
Yeah.
There you go. Translation.
Hey, CJ, what you got going on tomorrow? Then we'll wrap the show up.
Oh, man, tomorrow's going to be a busy one again. I mean, we got practice in the morning, a little coffee and football early on tomorrow. We'll have the media availability at 9 o'clock. We'll have some news updates right up on Texas football right after. I think Jerry and Bobby are going to go live again right after the practice availability time. There'll be some player availability right after the practice around 11:15. I'll have updates. We'll have some film, of course, for the winning drive with me, Rod Babers, and Coach Shipley. That will come on tomorrow afternoon, 4:15 tomorrow afternoon. So we're really excited for it. A lot of updates. And, hey, we're back into the swing of things of football updates constantly and consistently throughout the week. So make sure you're logging into ontexasfootball.com and coming back to the YouTube channel, because it's the updates are going to keep coming and keep flowing. And, I mean, it's only going up from here. So I'm excited.
There you go. RW keeps wanting you to go up to Denton. So CJ,
I got to get back up to Denton. I'll be back up there in the spring whenever Geyer and Ryan get back to their spring ball session. So I know they got some guys. They got a couple offensive linemen over there at Geyer at Ryan, and Geyer's got one of the best 2027 prospects in the entire world at the moment.
Well, good. Everybody, I appreciate it. We had a fun night. Make sure you give us a like and subscribe, and we love having you guys join us in the comments and the chat over there. It's always a fun, lively discussion on the Wednesday night live stream. Hey, CJ, thanks as always. Rod, you're always a tremendous contributor, man. We love hearing you ruminate on things and give us your thoughts, and it's always enlightening and fun. So I look forward to watching you guys on the winning drive tomorrow afternoon. And I'll see you back here next Wednesday. And again, coffee and football with Blake and Bobby and Jerry tomorrow morning. So lots going on here on Texas football. We're really happy to have you. So until next time, we got to give you that big hook 'em. So hook 'em, everybody.